I'm at Meltdown Comics in Los Angeles, California, the coolest comic book store in the entire city. And I'm joined today by some really amazing guests. Bryan Lee O'Malley, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. Ed Brubaker, Captain America, Winter Soldier, and a criminal. And Comic Girl 19, YouTube superstar. We're here today to talk about the art of adapting comic books into movies. I'm Devin Faraci, and this is Badass Digest. Obviously, as comic fans, we've always sort of been obsessed with the idea of comics becoming movies. I don't know why this is, but I think it's like sort of a natural part of being a comic fan. You guys both have really specific histories with comic adaptations. You had your book made into a movie. Ed, you're a screenwriter, and you have stuff that's being made into movies right now. Bryan, I want to sort of start with you and talk about the process of making Scott Pilgrim. And from inside the sausage factory, what's it like watching that happen?
It's really slow.
Are you waiting for the package you just ordered?
Maybe.
It took a long time. I don't know. What am I supposed to say?
That's it. Well, thank you very much for being here today. I appreciate it very much.
I have to go. The process of adaptation is like, it's another artist, so you have to like get that other artist's brain onto it. Like it has to be them, their own vision. It can't be just me. It can't be exactly the words that I wrote. Like I know a lot of fans would like everything to be verbatim adaptation. Right. But I just really wanted it to be Edgar Wright telling the story he wants to tell.
I feel like some elements of adaptation can be so faithful that it ceases to be a movie. I felt like until Marvel started their own studio, you look at those Fantastic Four movies that Fox did, they missed the whole point.
Let's not fight.
No, let's.
That's bad. That's really bad.
I think what Marvel has done well is that they take the essence of what's good in the comics and then they leave out all of the stuff that's hard to follow and they get right to the heart of it.
For me, I think it's like unself-conscious screenwriting. Like in X-Men, where they're like, what did you expect? Yellow spandex? And it's like, well, as a matter of fact, I kind of did, you know? They keep trying to be like, we're sorry, it's a comic, we know it's silly. It's kind of like disdainful to your audience. That's why the Avengers, I think, works so well because Joss Whedon writes comics, he cares about comics.
He cares about character. And that's the thing that Marvel has done so well, is like getting into the basics of the characters.
Big man in a suit of armor. Take that away, what are you? Genius, billionaire, playboy, philanthropist.
I mean, and that's what I think the thing at the end of the day is what comics are about is characters. Because that's why you keep coming back to a comic even as creative teams change, whatever, you're just stuck with the idea of Peter Parker.
Yeah, it's a soap opera. I mean, I wrote Captain America for 8 years, and it's like all I ever thought about was Steve and Sharon Carter. You know, and Bucky. I just thought about like their relationships, what I would want to do with them next, and then the villain plotline comes second.
It's interesting because Marvel obviously is doing it right. Marvel's making money. Marvel people love these movies. DC has been unable to make this happen. Is it because of the characters that sort of, except for Batman, this has just not worked for them?
Batman is the most recognizable superhero character in the world, even more than Spider-Man.
Yeah.
You know, Batman and Spider-Man are it. But Spider-Man, I think that's the genius of Stan Lee. We all underrate Stan Lee because everyone loves Jack Kirby and Steve Ditko. But the genius of him was that he started thinking of them as people first instead of an origin story. Every DC story, the most interesting story is the origin. Every time someone writes their first Batman thing, they always go back to
Can we please stop? Like, how many more
Crime
times do I have to see Uncle Ben die on the big screen? Like, how many more times? Like, I don't want to see it. Like,
I do feel like Batman needs to just get over it already. That I think is really key.
And Mark Waid did a comic where Batman went to heaven and saw his parents in heaven, and I thought, well, cool, you can stop being Batman now. Like, if heaven exists and your parents are there, why are you mad?
That would be a good story. And he comes back and he's still mad.
Yeah, he's still mad. He's like, I'm just a jerk.
I'm Batman.
Back to Scott Pilgrim, because what's interesting is that it becomes a collaboration, which in a way a lot of comic book stuff isn't. It's usually between a writer and an artist, usually maybe an editor. But this became a weird collaboration because you were collaborating with these other people. So how did Scott Pilgrim change as a result of the movie?
I first started talking to Edgar between the first and second books, which was a long time ago. So I started getting his ideas and giving him my ideas that early. I got sent the first draft of the screenplay in, I think, early 2006, when I was just finished volume 3. And there's stuff in volume 4 that came from the screenplay. I was like, can I use this? This is really funny. Like, they wrote the lines, like, there's a whole thing like where Scott's like, you had a sexy phase? All that stuff is like from Michael Bacall and Edgar Wright. I would build on their jokes. So like, when I look at the movie, they build on my jokes from the first 3 books. And they make a lot of my stuff way funnier.
Your volume 6 is very different from their finale with Nega Scott, which is sort of referenced in the movie, but you actually do stuff with it. Which came first?
The movie was wrapped by the time I was writing volume 6. There was a rough cut that I had seen, and I was like, I have to make volume 6 really good in order to even be on the same stage as this movie that's going to come out in the same month. So I just worked really hard on it, and I was like, I can do whatever the hell I want because they're already done. And then Edgar was like, we have to reshoot now. So he went and changed the ending after.
Oh, because he read your ending and
yeah,
he
really
liked it better than what they had.
You're working on a new book, Seconds. And as you're working on that, does the experience of Scott Pilgrim, does that come into mind and go, well, you know, if we're doing a movie, if there'll be a movie, is that sort of ever in the back of your mind?
No, I've never thought about it. I mean, I think about the fans a lot more than I did, the readers, because I'm just in more, I've heard a lot more from people in the last 2 years.
Now, Ed, you are working on your own stuff with Coward.
Yeah.
How's that experience for you, sort of taking the stuff that you wrote and trying to figure out how to make it work on screen?
I worked really closely with the director, David Slade, who made Hard Candy and 30 Days a Night, and
Twilight 3? Twilight 3?
I don't remember. I didn't see that. We sat in his office for like a week just going through the book scene by scene and figuring out things that needed to be in the movie and parts of the narration that he thought, this is important. By the time I had like the 10-page outline for what I needed to write as the screenplay, I could picture the movie version in my head. And my whole thing was, I already wrote it once. I didn't want to write the same story again. Well, I'll just take that out and add this and do, because I had already written the thing again.
I was like, why don't you guys change more stuff? Like, if I was doing this, I would have changed everything.
Yeah,
like, I was an idiot when I wrote this. It's like, they were so faithful to it.
Comic books have influenced movies always. If you look at even Citizen Kane, there's framing and stuff that comes directly from comic books. And they're both very visual mediums when it comes to storytelling. Why aren't there more Frank Millers that are going from comic books into movies?
Comic books require you to sit in a room quietly for like 6 months. Yeah. Movies require you to go out and be with people all the time.
You ink your own stuff too, right? Yeah. So you have total control. I mean, except for the color edition.
Almost all me. And I had like no oversight to the point in the last few books I was like, what am I doing? Like, can someone help me? Like,
Wouldn't it be nice
has someone read this? Can someone tell me what's happening?
We're talking about the Winter Soldier. With Bucky showing up and sort of that being set up, how weird is that for you in that you have created this character who now is going to spiral off into his own thing in the movies?
I'm honestly pretty excited about it. With Bucky being in Captain America and the Winter Soldier stuff happening, it was just bizarre. Like, you could see it being set up. I went to the premiere of the movie, and there's that moment where they show Bucky with the sniper rifle. And I was like probably the first person ever to hoot like an assassination sniper rifle scene. And I was talking to the director later, and I was like, yeah, I totally hooted when that happened. He's like, I thought that might be you. And I was like, yeah, of course, yeah. And it's totally bizarre. Like, me and Steve Epting took a dead character and brought him back to life because it was my childhood dream. I came up with this idea when I was 8 years old. When I found out that there was no issue 99 of Captain America where Bucky was blown up by Baron Zemo, I was like, well, if I ever get to write Captain America, I'm bringing Bucky back.
Let's talk about what you guys think are the most successful comic book adaptations and why.
I'm really still excited about the Avengers movie. Like, I'm just so excited to finally see something colorful, fun. I love the fact that it's heralded a new age of comic book movies.
Right. I think the cool thing about the Avengers too is that it's a movie that by Hollywood logic shouldn't even exist.
Oh yeah.
I mean, like, let's take the next 6 years and introduce a bunch of characters and bring them all together. You don't make movies like that.
Yeah.
I can't believe they finally figured out a place to put Joss Whedon where he's perfect to make people billions of dollars.
Billions of dollars, yeah.
Like, I've literally walked down the street talking to him about Son of Satan and like Brother Voodoo before.
Yeah.
Are these hints that these are Avengers 2 hints you're giving us right now?
Probably, yeah. No, I wouldn't be able to
Patsy Walker
say.
Hellcat showing up in Avengers 2?
I want some Warlock. I want some
You want
Warlock.
Tigra.
I think Warlock is very likely. I think I would not be surprised.
I mean, with Guardians
if
of the
Warlock
Galaxy.
shows up. So what do you think is the most successful comic book adaptation so far?
I always think of History of Violence, because History of Violence is the movie when you go, oh, that was based on a comic. People are like, really? I want it to get to the point where this thing being based on a comic is no different than something being based on a book.
I think we can guess what Brian's
Brian,
might
what is the most successful comic book?
No, mine is actually The Dark Knight. I love The Dark Knight.
Here's my card.
I don't care about Batman at all, but that movie made me love Batman.
Bryan Lee
Cheers.
O'Malley, Second is your next work. Scott
Someday.
Pilgrim versus the World is continuing to become a cult classic. Ed Brubaker, thank you for being here. You have the ongoing Fatale right now is the one
I
you're
pick it
focusing
up.
on.
I pick up Fatale every month.
Comic Girl 19, you have your YouTube stardom on what's your channel?
Comic Book Girl 19.
That's
is the
pretty
channel.
easy to
Yeah,
remember. Well,
it's
thank you
pretty
so
easy.
much, all of you, for joining me
thank
today. I
you.
appreciate it very much. So, what is your favorite comic book movie? What comic do you think needs to be adapted next? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. And I'll be back here again next week. We'll be doing something totally different, just as badass. I'll probably be even drunker than this. My name is Devin Faraci, and this is Badass Digest. Jesus Christ!
Get your film fix. Subscribe to CineFix.